Welcome to the Hospital Queue Management installment of this series of training videos introducing the ARB Management Console. The Hospital Queue Management feature is available from the top menu as highlighted here. It's a feature that is most relevant to the ASG community and therefore associated most closely with that role. When you click on that menu option, you are presented with a list of queues, and queues are identified by their logical name together with their mapping to the MQ queue designation, which is the physical queue name on your environment. Many have been categorized by line of business usage. So you can see that top queue is for UK business exclusively. The second one is uncategorized, so its usage hasn't yet been categorized. The third queue is exclusively a wholesale queue. And listed with each entry is the number of messages that are hospitalized within that queue. And although the recording tool I'm using does not show that there is a pop-up under the I symbol here, there is, and it explains that there is a limit to the message count of 20. So if you see 20 in your message queue report, it doesn't mean that there are only 20 messages, but that there are at least 20 messages. There may well be more. But if you look at this item here, you can see that it lists 16, and so you can be confident that there are only 16 hospitalized messages in that queue at this moment. By clicking on the download symbol by each queue, it is possible to get an Excel report downloaded of the messages in that queue. If you click on one of these queues, then the second portion of the screen below updates itself, and I have clicked, well, the row that has been clicked is highlighted as seen here. I have selected the third entry in the list, and at this point I can start seeing further details about each of the messages that are hospitalized within that queue. Each message listed is listed with a timestamp when the hospitalization occurred, a description of the error, the stat trace, which is most relevant to the ARB development team to help diagnose what the issue may be, and the message that was hospitalized. Now, if I click on these messages, single click, I am able to highlight one or more messages and then either repost them through the repost button or delete them. By clicking again on a selected message, I can deselect it. So essentially clicking toggles the selection. If it's not selected, it selects. If it is selected, it deselects. And you can see that the delete selected or repost selected buttons only become active when there is at least one message selected. In fact, the message count of selected messages is indicated on each of those buttons. It is further possible to select all messages listed and operate on those as a singleton. So in other words, delete all of the selected messages or repost all of them. Now again, the handy light bulb tip does provide useful guidance. If I don't click, but if I control click, you can see that the selection is slightly different. Okay, the row is highlighted green, or at least the text is highlighted green. And now I see in a tabular display all of the details of that message. So I again see confirmation of the timestamp when the message was hospitalized. I can more clearly see the error message that was logged at the point of hospitalization, and I can see the message content. Um, you can see here that there is some fairly basic syntax highlighting on the XML, which should aid legibility. And further down the screen, I actually see the formatted stack trace. So all of the aspects of the message that was summarized in the tabular listing here are also presented in much more detail when you control click um, an entry in that queue. Now, if you go to the message editing and reposting tab here, then firstly you notice that the message changes color. That's a visual clue that you're about to take action on that message. And you can just repost the message as is if you wish to do so, or it is possible to make some edits to the message and then repost it. Please notice that once the message is edited, the undo all changes button highlights itself, so that is a visual clue that that message has changed. If you're no longer happy with the changes you have made, you can revert the message back to its original content simply by hitting the undo all changes. But if you do need to make a change, well, that change can be made. Please notice the warning here that says if you intend to use an external editor to edit the message, you need to make sure that the character encoding is UTF-8, because if there are, in quotes, special characters in that message, it is very, very easy to lose them if you're not consistently using a UTF-8 editor. I will not repost this message, but if you do click the repost button, then that message will repost itself onto the original input queue. I think the features described here are familiar to anybody who's already used the existing order tracker. They are modelled very, very closely on that order tracker. Just one perhaps point of difference that is worthy of highlight is the little filter that you see on the top of the screen here. And what that allows you to do is, and that's particularly useful if there are many messages in the queue, is to go searching for messages within the total set of messages that contain a particular message string. So for example, if I look at this message and I perhaps choose a string that I imagine might be, relatively speaking, unique just to that message, then I can copy that for the purposes of this example, paste it into the search box, reselect, and what you see here is out of the two messages only one has been returned, and it is the one, please take it on faith, it is the one that contains the string that I have just selected. Okay, to clear the selection, well, just hit the funnel again, which once it's active is red, and that will clear it, reselect, and the original two messages are restored. If you feel that you need to refresh your display, then you can do that simply by clicking the refresh button here, so that will update the message counts based on perhaps some reposting activity that you've done. So it's a good way of confirming that the messages you've just reposted haven't promptly turned back up on the hospital queue. So hitting the refresh will start the refresh process. And there we are, the report at the top of the screen has been updated. Clearly no further activity here, and then you can reselect and delete, repost, edit and repost messages as previously. So that completes this introduction to the hospital queue management features of the AIB Management Console. Thank you for your attention.